If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy.
Download and subscribe
at BeBullish.com.
It's Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormick.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios,
here's TJ McCormack.
Walter M. Sterling for TJ McCormack, the biggest all-night show in American radio. From Bangor, Maine, to Pittsburgh, to Los Angeles, to Chicago, this is live radio, the way God meant it to be. You and I get to talk to each other, and we care about the things that we talk about. I'm sorry, I just don't talk about meta issues. I talk about water in the basement. I talk about the check engine light on the car. Oh, wait, that's a brand new car. Why is the check engine light on? And why will my car fail inspection if the check engine light is on? These are my mysteries. How about you? I've got a live phone number. I'll give it to you in just seconds. But first, I better give you a reason to call. We have incredibly dangerous, tricky, bad weather this weekend throughout the great Northeast, east of the Mississippi. High winds, low temperatures, rain, snow, and I will keep you up to date on the status of that storm, which covers half the United States of America. There is nothing, obviously, more important to you and me than the weather. Driving an 18-wheeler today on I-80 in Iowa, there was at least a 30-car pileup on the highway, Interstate 80 in Iowa. Were you in that? Did you see that? I have never seen video, never seen photos that were that dramatically horrible as the pileup on I-80 today in Iowa. My number is 800-848-9222. Did you see that pileup today? Did you get stuck in it? If you're in a traffic situation at any given time tonight, I want to hear about it. One of the dumb things about American radio is they imagine, the people who run radio stations in general, not this one, but in general, they imagine that there's no traffic after 11 o'clock at night. They imagine that there's no weather after 11 o'clock at night. But these are the things you and I care about. This is the Red Apple Audio Network. Good evening. The great thing about this time, and it's so important to my heart to share this with you, because I've always been aware of this since I was a little kid and the transistor radio was underneath the pillow. There's a moment of intimacy that happens right about now. Adults, grown-ups, get far more honest every second the night goes on. There's more conversation, honesty, from the heart conversations, intimacy, emotional intimacy at this time. And it grows as the night goes on. You're driving an Uber, you're alone. It's just you and me. Taxi cab in America, 18-wheeler. The cab of an 18-wheeler right about now is the most perfect moment that you, the truck driver, have. Why? You have the temperature exactly right. The dash lights are adjusted exactly the way you want them. The heat is perfect. You're alone. There's nobody ahead of you. Oh, there's the Love truck stop. You might pull in there, get the coffee and the snack you're not supposed to have. But this is our time. The third shift in the hospital. The best RNs work now because they know they're not going to be distracted by bureaucracy. You're a registered nurse. What do you want to do? You want to take care of that patient. You don't want to have to fill out another form. You don't want some clown to say you have to fill out this form. You need to fill out the life report, the blood sample for this patient. That's what we get to do at this time. This is a time we get to do our jobs, and we don't have to do someone else's job. Well, what's someone else's job? Filling out a form? Taking tests? There's a downside. When you and I come to work for the great shift, the third shift, what's the downside? There's a tray of cookies. There was a birthday party today. And on that tray that was filled, brimming with chocolate chip cookies, a remarkable array of frosted cookies for the birthday party that took place this afternoon. What what's on there? One oatmeal raisin cookie, one half-eaten oatmeal raisin cookie. That's what's left for us in the break room. But we don't care because the trade-off is HR isn't around, the boss isn't around. That form I was told to fill out 2 weeks ago, no one's going to bug me about that. This is our time. Teacher grading papers, thank you. Police officer, third shift, fire departments throughout America. We are the best workers in the United States. We respond to advertising, hint. We are more honest with each other. We don't bother each other. What's worse? You come to work, you work in a retail store, you work in a beauty salon, a lingerie salon. You go to work, and what do we have to face during the day? What we have to face during the day is the woman in the corner who has that hideous perfume, or the guy who has yet to find out what deodorant is for. None of those people exist at this time of day, do they? They don't exist. It's just us. This is our time. And that's why this is the biggest all-night show on American radio. I'm Walter M. Sterling. I got a phone number, 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. There was a great story today. What was it, Long Meadow, Long Island? I want you to hear what happened today. This is stunning news. Like, this is major news. Oh, my gosh.
There was another one of those teen takeovers, this time at the Green Acres Mall on Long Island. Teenagers flooded the mall after social media posts called for the takeover. Shoppers had no idea what was happening as kids raced into and out of stores.
These kids running up and down all over the place.
I can't come in and go out of the mall for like 2 hours.
Cops made at least 9 arrests. Earlier in the week, there was another teen takeover at a mall up in the Bronx. Police arrested a dozen kids there.
Parents need to really start taking more steps to know what their kids are up to.
It's very a shame because back in my days, we never did this kind of stuff. It's the type of discipline and the respect people have now is really absurd.
Now police across the tri-state scrubbing social media sites more closely, looking for signs of another takeover, hoping to stop it before it happens.
What did the police do today? What was the police activity today? They were working with a mall where there was a, quote, teen takeover of the mall. That's what the cops were used for. How many cops were there? 8, 10, 15. I can give you a long list of things that I'd like the police officers to spend more time on. I'm not worried about teen takeovers of mall. Why? Because that's what teens are supposed to do. Teens are supposed to be in the mall. That's why there are malls. That's why malls were very popular for many years. And now there's all this strum and dirge. I was an English major. All this strum and dirge about teens taking over the mall. No. The reason it was such a shock is that malls throughout America have systematically kicked teens out. This may be a surprise to you, but most malls today have a teen curfew. Many of them won't allow a teen in that mall after 5 p.m. without a grown-up. Well, why have a mall? The whole point of the mall is that it should be overrun by teenagers who can't wait to buy stuff, who want to park a tent in Sephora and live there the rest of their lives. That is the goal of every great retailer. Every great retailer goes, I really want my target customer to just fight to get here. But most of the teen-targeted stores in malls closed, went out of business because they scared away the teens. The teens are the feeder for American malls. You kick out the teens, and you're not going to have any more. Oh, that's right. We don't have as many malls. And why is that? Not because we threw out the teens, not because we gave crappy customer service, not because we kept shutting the hours of the mall, not because in too many malls do your feet stick to the floor in the food court. And don't even get me started about bourbon chicken. No, they blame Amazon. They blame Amazon. Can you find bourbon chicken in a real Chinese restaurant? Of course not. Why that's an outgrowth of malls, I don't know. It's a great mystery to me. The reason malls are dying has to do with everything but Amazon. Because Amazon would love it if the malls were thriving. Why would Amazon love it? Because in major purchases and clothing, we want to visit the merchandise before we buy it. Oh, I'm going to go to the mall today. I saw this on Amazon. Let me see what it's like. Let me go to the store and see what it's like. It's the best thing that could happen to Amazon is for malls to be thriving. They don't want malls to be out of business. They love malls. It takes their product categories and makes it 3D. There's nothing wrong with it. And yet, rather than say, well, what could we have done as a mall? There's no self-reflection as a mall. There's no therapy for malls to say, what did we do wrong? How did we scare away all of these people? These magnificent malls that were designed to attract thousands of people and used to, until they said, well, let's get rid of teens. We're going to put a curfew in our mall at 5 p.m. You want to come to the mall? You got to bring dad. You want to come to the mall? You got to bring mom. Why the hell would you want to go to the mall with your mother? You don't want to go to the mall with your mother, not after you've hit puberty. Who the hell wants to go to the mall with your mother? Nobody. All right. Then they said, we're going to start. And this was the beginning of the death. In my opinion, this was the beginning of the death of malls. When was it okay to charge the kid, to charge little Johnny and Karen to pay to see Santa Claus? How did it happen that it's okay to pay to see Santa Claus? If your 8-year-old is with you in the mall and there's Santa Claus, oh my gosh, Daddy, can we go see Santa? Of course. And you're thinking, yes, of course we can go see Santa. What a great thing it is to be able to go see Santa Claus. And then you get close to Santa Claus and there's a sign and it says $15 per kid. And then it says $25 for a package of photographs. And then it says $30 for enlargement of those photographs. And the kid's going, we got to go see Santa, got to go see Santa. And then the last thing is apply on the app for a time. What do you mean apply for the app? My kid here is now wants to get into Santa's lap. What the hell is with this? To apply for a time slot to see Santa Claus on an app is the exact opposite of Santa's spirit. But what does this do? At every moment that you and I go to the mall, it becomes more and more of a hostile experience, and it makes online shopping more attractive. Things we want to see in person, clothing, major appliances, we want to see them in person before we buy them. Oh, but then I have to go to the mall. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Jeff in the Bronx, welcome to the other side of midnight. Hi.
Hi, Walter. Hi, Walter. You have a classic name. I don't meet too many people with that name, but I always love that name. I'm a former historian, so if you have any questions, that mall that was raided by the teenagers, the old timers out there, I'll nail it for you. That used to be Freedom Land years ago. It was Freedom Land, and for years it was a big swamp and refuge for it. They had pheasants in there and turtles and everything. Then they started building the mall out there. They also talked about building the new Yankee Stadium there, the first rendition in the early 90s.
Jeff, I love you. I love people from the Bronx. When are you going to get interesting? What do you have to tell me that's interesting?
Okay, I got some things that are interesting.
One thing.
The first thing.
Give me one thing.
Okay, you talk about traffic and driving. At night, I've noticed there's a lot of traffic, but it has to do with construction on the roadways late at night. And you combine that with the weather and bad weather, and it's just unfortunate that people don't know how to themselves dig out. The city doesn't bring the trucks out fast enough to get the roads clearer, and we have these crazy snowfalls where we're buried for 3 months.
All right,
3 weeks.
Jeff, get to the important point, which is: are you blaming Mondavi? Are you blaming Mondavi?
Mondavi sounds like a leader in Africa. I'm blaming the mayor of New York City.
I can't learn a lot of new names at once. Thank you very much for calling WABC. Walter M. Sterling. Another side of midnight. I got a phone number. You ready? 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. I believe the reason the malls are dying is because the malls committed suicide. You and I will talk about that. Plus, we're going to talk about the UFO story, the amazing UFO story where once again nothing has been announced. And there's nothing being promised to be announced except something soon. We'll have an expert on. We'll have Dave Scott, who's an expert on UFOs, which is interesting because it's probably fiction. He's an expert on fictions, but he's very articulate, and it'll kill a good 15 minutes of this show. Walter M. Sterling on the Red Apple Audio Network.
It's Another Side of Midnight.
Listen to this podcast now on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Leadership Thread with Dr. Peggy Polonis.
We have with us Dimitri Hadjigeorgiou. What would you say was that golden thread, those values that you never, ever compromised on?
I've reached the point finally, and with ADHD, realizing, hey, this is a superpower. It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform.
How can you support an organization like Shriners Children's with a gift of cash or appreciated securities and then receive fixed payments each year for life? This is an incredibly attractive opportunity for many of our listeners. Listen to the show today during Give Back, Get Back, your weekly guide to charitable investing. To learn more about Shriners Children's and ways to give, visit their website, shrinerschildrens.org/radio.
It's Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormick.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios,
here's TJ McCormick.
Oh, no such luck. It's Walter M. Sterling, Another Side of Midnight. Good evening. This is the Red Apple Audio Network. This is the biggest all-night show in American radio. And the most unique because what? It's live. This isn't a best of. This isn't somebody's uncle filling in. This is a live radio show hosted by an almost professional host. And you and I are talking about the, quote, death of malls. The reason malls have died is they killed themselves. It's not Amazon. Oh, they love to blame Amazon. It's because they killed themselves. First, they ate the wrong thing. They ate bourbon chicken. Who knows what that is? You see it in a good Chinese restaurant? Ever in your life, have you ever seen bourbon chicken at a good Chinese restaurant? Absolutely not. They have made it hostile and uncomfortable for you and I to get to the car. Why? We can't find the car. You park the car in a mall lot and it disappears. It's like Brigadoon because they make them in different levels and they think, it'll get you to a different exit or different. It's raining and you can't find the car. Next, your feet stick to the floor. What the hell is that about? But the spiritual death of the mall happened when they started charging your kid to see Santa Claus. 800-848-9222. That's my phone number. It's live. 800-848-9222. John in Long Island, welcome to Another Side of Midnight. Yes, Doctor.
Good evening. Yes. We were kids growing up. There was stores locally. You walk to stores, and those stores got phased out by the malls. The malls took over. Then in the backdrop for years was the Sears catalog that also affected a lot of businesses. The COVID put people into the state of doing online shopping, and now it's happening. Amazon became this big monster, and the malls getting affected by that. I mean, you have a position on what you said, but there's definitely shifts in shopping. However, people do like to look at products at the store. What they do, they go into the mall, look at the store, then they order online. I know lots of stores have been out of business because of online shopping. They go to the store, look at the product, and they order online for a better price. So there's always a democratic shift with consumers' buying habits and so forth. And that's part of the mix as well, too. So that's my input for the show tonight.
John, that's a very rational, reasoned input. It has no place on my show. Don't ever call again in being logical. If you call this show, I want you to be a little stupid, a little drunk, and a little entertaining. Can you work on that, John? Would you do that for me, please? 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. Walter M. Sterling, Another Side of Midnight. Welcome. It's a live radio show. Marty in Florida. We have to talk about Florida after you talk about the mall. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Okay, well, listen, I moved here from New York.
Of course you did. You're in the 6th precinct. You're in the 6th precinct right now.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm in St. Augustine. They don't have precincts.
No, I meant Florida's like the 6th precinct. It's a joke, Marty. It's a joke.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah, okay.
First of all, you're going to say it's stupid, but I call myself history boy. I'm 79, and I remember everything that ever happened. We got a mall around here. It's called the Avenues Mall. Okay, years ago they had a pretty good food court, and they had like Sharper Image, and I bought my wife like a good watch, a Citizen watch or whatever. Then do you ever see these kids wearing these like stupid pants that are ripped? You know, you have to pay more for ripped pants than you pay for good pants, right?
Yes.
So what happened? What happened is they started catering to the styles of these kids. And most of the kids walking around today, it's like when you take two dogs and they in an incestuous relationship where they're beautiful but they got no brains. So what it is they're walking around. I'm not going to mention a name, but there was a chain, a very high quality jewelry store in the Avenues Mall, and they moved, they left. So now when I went there with my wife a while ago, there's nothing for us to look at because I'm sorry, my wife doesn't wear stupid ripped pants, you know, and I talk to kids and somebody would say, I'm too poor to afford ripped pants. The stores are crazy. And another thing, I think without being there, there's a racial component, okay? Because what the media don't tell you is, why do you think these kids got locked up? You don't get locked up for going to a mall. They were probably shoplifting. I mean, I heard on the news that they had X amount of arrests. And I used to live not too far from Green Acres. I lived in Queens, okay? So they go there, it's what they call the flash mob. They go there and they usually take stuff. They like to do graffiti. They like to do vandalism. And again, I wasn't there, but I was a cop for 20 years.
Oh, wait. Stop right there. Marty, first of all, we don't need the history of the mall from you. What we need is something far more interesting. You were a police officer?
No, I was a police officer it's called Housing Police, 1,800 men, and fully certified and everything like that. I caught a kid one time. No.
This is my show. I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to ask you questions about being a police officer for 60 seconds because it is the most fascinating job imaginable.
I loved it.
When you look at the way most police departments are being run today in New York City, in Chicago, in Boston, does it make you sick to your stomach?
It makes me sick to my stomach, but because of the fact that, I mean, they shoot too many people. My specialty was I used a nightstick. I call it a truth stick.
They don't give them. Do they give them nightsticks anymore?
They give them. They use that metal thing. It's called a Taiwan nightstick.
Oh.
It's collapsible.
Hey, don't make fun of Asians.
Anyway. So what happened is that like the cops in New York several years ago, people went up behind them and threw water over them and gave them a bath. You remember that?
I remembered that. And Marty, thank you for the call. I remember that. And that to me was the turning point in the history of New York City police enforcement when kids, short little kids, ran up to police officers and threw buckets of water over them, over police officers. When I forget about when I was a kid, if I did that today as like a grown up, I would be in jail since that moment in time. Just terrifying. You and I are talking at 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. And I want to talk about the malls. There was trouble at a mall on Long Island today. A lot of cops came out. I can think of better reasons for cops to come out than kids overrunning malls and stealing bras. I'm not worried about any of the above. I believe there are more serious issues. Did they steal any cars? No, I didn't hear anybody about stealing any cars. Therefore, I think unless it's grand larceny, I don't want the cops coming out to a mall unless they're planning on having a nice lunch. It's crazy talk. But malls have killed themselves. Oh, they used to have these wonderful malls. Yeah, why don't they have them anymore? In my opinion, they don't have them anymore because the food courts suck. They have no way to help you and me to the car. The parking lots are a disaster. The prices are high at a mall, but mostly the feeder for a mall. The future of the mall is a teenager. A teenager is the future of every mall. And have they done anything to embrace the teenager, make them comfortable, welcome them? No. They've set up curfews. If you're under 18, you're going to have a hard time getting into a mall after 5 p.m. unless, and this is my favorite joke, unless you work there. If you work at the mall, they're more than happy to have you come in. I say the malls killed themselves. 800-848-9222. It was not Amazon. Martin in upstate New York, welcome to Another Side of Midnight. Hi.
Hey. Good morning, Walter. How you doing?
I'm excited to talk to you, as you can imagine.
Okay. Well, I think things are different these days from when I was a kid. I would go to the mall to go to a record store or go to play video games in an arcade. But now I think what happens is these kids today, I sound like old man. These kids today, they get on social media. They go there with the intention of causing trouble, maybe fighting, maybe shoplifting, like the previous caller was saying. They're there to cause trouble. And that's why the cops have to go there.
But that's not why the malls died. There have always been bad kids. There were always greaser kids. There were always kids with switchblades. There have always been bad kids, my friend. This is nothing new. The general atmosphere of every mall I know of has become progressively hostile toward all customers. All customers. Think about your mom.
If it was my mall, I want people that got to spend money, and a teenager generally doesn't have that much money to spend. And if they're going to be causing trouble, which I believe that's why they go there now, it's just run around, cause trouble, fight. I think that's what they're doing, and that's why they're not wanted in the mall.
Yeah, real quick, Marty, where do you live in upstate New York?
I live in Putnam County.
Got it. I really appreciate you listening and calling 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Larry on Long Island, welcome to Another Side of Midnight. Hello, Larry. Hi.
Good morning. I'm a native Long Islander, and I spend most of my life going to Roosevelt Field, which is a well-known mall. I never spent time in the Valley Stream Mall, but it's well known.
Yeah.
The thing that's scaring me the most about these days, with all of the mass shootings everywhere, Nassau County, my county, has the greatest reputation of being the safest. How do hundreds of kids communicate online to attack a mall and the greatest secure county in the country didn't know about it ahead of time? How did thousands of people in New York City months ago, for some podcaster, destroy a neighborhood without the police knowing ahead of time this was going to happen? That's the biggest problem right now.
Larry, is that a rhetorical question, or do you have an answer? Do you have an answer?
I don't have an answer. I was hoping you would have an answer.
I'm glad that you hope that, because I am a professional talk show host, and therefore I do have an answer for you, Larry, at 800-848-9222. The answer is this. Grown-ups who are not acquainted with social media don't understand how efficient, beautiful, elegant social media is, and they don't understand what influencers are. Influencers are not just people who make ads for a product and then get free product. Influencers are people of all ages who have a fan base. And several times a week or a month, depending on the influencer, they say, well, I'm going to go live tonight. On TikTok, I'm going to be live. On Instagram, I'm going to be live. And they go live. Now, I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm saying, because what I'm saying is key to the future of mass media. In the beginning of mass media, who controlled the media? It was the person who owned a printing press. That's who controlled mass media. And they could decide how many stories on a page, how many copies they were going to make. They were in charge of distribution. The man who owned the printing press, the woman who owned the printing press, they controlled the media. And then, as more printing presses were made, and a guy said, well, I don't want to own the printing press, but I'd like to print some articles. I'd like to print a couple pages of the Bible and get it out there. I have an idea for a book. Then that person checked and made sure they could get some money to have the book printed. And they got the money from somebody who was like, well, I sort of like this book. I don't know. And that was a publisher. But the publisher decided what was going to be published. The publisher may not have liked what the author said or even what readers would want. But the publisher had the money to publish the book. They were in charge of distribution. That's who was in charge of distribution. Radio came along, thank God, because otherwise I would have never worked a day in my life. Radio came along, and who was in charge? The people who owned the transmitters. The people who owned the transmitters decided what went on the transmitter. That was the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper was who owned the transmitter. But it gets more complicated. Television comes along. Who decides then? The people who own the transmitter. Cable companies started, and they decided which channels you got. When cable started, there were 50 channels, but you could only get 36, including that porn channel that you denied having, but I know you had it. That's what happened. There was somebody, a grown-up with a lot of money, in charge of whether or not you got to read a magazine, a book, see the newspaper, watch a TV show, or listen to the radio. Rich person always was in charge. All right, now everything's changed. This is what can happen tomorrow morning at 7:45 a.m. Are you ready? Please pay attention to this. This is how the world has changed. At 7:45 tomorrow morning, your 13-year-old daughter can make a video on her laptop or her iPhone. She can upload it to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, many other platforms for free. No publisher, no expense. She can upload it for free tomorrow morning before you woke up and distribute that video to the entire world without an editor, a publisher, a fact checker, a parent. She can upload a video to the entire world tomorrow morning before you wake up. That is an unbelievable. No publisher, no book publisher could publish a book for the entire world tomorrow morning. No television executive could say, you know what? I've got a great idea for a show. I want it on the air tomorrow morning before 8 o'clock. Physically impossible. Television requires 100 people, 10 people getting drunk at lunch, 40 meetings of people arguing over the script. Never happened. But your 8-year-old tomorrow morning before 8 o'clock can put a video up that the world will see. That is why they were able to get hundreds, thousands of kids into any area at any time that they want. And no, how could no police department could track that, because it's not a singular event. It isn't the newspaper did it. It isn't the magazine did it. No, it's one kid doing one post seen by, their 10 million followers. Their 10 million followers saw it. And, if only 10 or 100 show up, the kid will probably think it's a failure. 800-848-9222, Walter M. Sterling. Oh, look at this. It's 40 minutes past the hour, 40 minutes past the hour. This is the Red Apple Audio Network.
It's Another Side of Midnight. This is the Worldwide News Network.
Extra.
In Texas, Governor Greg Abbott is taking steps aimed at stopping kids from walking out of class to protest. Abbott says school districts will face funding cuts and legal liability if they let kids walk out of class that way.
We have to improve test scores among our students. You're not improving test scores if you're skipping class. If you're a student, you have a job, and that's to go be in a classroom. If you're a teacher or educator, your job is to be educating those students.
The move comes as hundreds of students nationwide have been seen walking out of class in protest of ICE raids. The Texas Education Agency investigating several districts to see if teachers and counselors encouraged the walkouts. Abbott says
it's the responsibility of the superintendent, the principals, and the educators to make sure those children are in school getting the education they're supposed to be getting.
I'm James Flippin, and this is the Worldwide News Network.
It's Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormick.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios,
here's TJ McCormack.
The biggest all-night show in American radio, Another Side of Midnight, on the Red Apple Audio Network. Walter M. Sterling for TJ McCormack. Thank you, TJ, for giving me the privilege of sharing this time with your listener. We have the best time because it is at 2:45 on the East Coast in America. There's a massive weather front going through east of the Mississippi. I keep an eye on it for you at all times. If it gets worse, you will know. If the temperatures drop precipitously, you will know. If the winds kick up on I-80, you will know. And if you are on I-91 or I-90, I'm sorry. You know, I-90 is otherwise known as the luge. John on Long Island, welcome to Another Side of Midnight. Hello, sir.
Yes, that is me. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm excited sexually to be speaking to you.
Oh, man. See, I didn't know you could see me through the phone.
Well, that is, again, the magic of AM technology. People for years have dismissed AM technology as being staticky and old-fashioned, but when needed, it is as valuable as knowing where you can look into the girls' locker room.
That's why we need to say AM radio.
Exactly. John, are you going to be entertaining now, or are you going to tell me how old you are?
You want to know how old I am?
No,
I'm 89.
Oh, no, you're not.
89 years young, Sterling. Tell me how old I am.
Well, congratulations. You're our youngest listener. John, what do you have to share with me
It sounds like it. It sounds like some of these guys calling in the middle of their sleep.
Yeah, it sounds like some of them have been sleeping since, I don't know.
No sense of humor.
Since
You're not even catching your jokes.
No.
Jokes and then picking them up.
Well, as my mother would say, not everybody's going to think you're funny, Walter. Jeez. Okay, John, what about the malls? All
right, so my girl, she went to the mall recently, I don't know, last year, whatever, and she thought it'd be cute to take a picture with Santa. She's a cute girl. I'm 42. She's the same age as me. She's very cute, blonde, skinny, right, blue eyes. And she said, I'm going to take a picture with Santa, sit on his lap, whatever. She's like, it cost me, I don't know what I could say on the radio, damn near $40.
Yeah, like $50, right? It's insane.
What, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
When she told me how much it was to take a picture with Santa Claus, I said, oh, my God, man, that's a ripoff. So I come to work. I got a much more interesting job than a cop. I am a big night mechanic at the biggest bowling alley on Long Island. That's what I do.
What % of your revenue is beer?
Oh, I don't know, a lot. I'm a mechanic. I'm in the back. I just drink by myself. We're not allowed to drink on the job. Anyhow,
No, I meant at the bowling alley.
Yeah, I don't know, really. I mean, it's got to be a lot. They're pushing that beer. I mean, there's 20 beer bottles on the table or more when people leave. They like to drink and bowl.
What is the biggest mechanic scam?
Mechanic scam?
Yeah, you're an honest mechanic. Most of them are not. What is the most common way that a poor little guy like me is going to be scammed by an auto mechanic?
Oh, but yeah. Well, when I was working auto mechanics, sure, of course, they're going to tell you that you need, brake fluid top off or brake fluid flush, rather. So brake fluid flush is a complete utter scam. Don't ever fall for that unless you specifically keep track of your brand new car and when your fluids are changing, you go to the dealership and tell them specifically what you want. And even then, you can't be sure. The brake fluid flush, the coolant flush, anytime they say flush, you can't see inside those systems. They're really just what they used to tell us to do was top off the fluid a little, spray it clean, wipe everything clean so it looked like you did something, and that's it. And I could not drive with that. I hated that. Really.
Hey, listen, you're a good guy, John. Thank you. Call anytime. Thank you for calling Another Side of Midnight with Walter M. Sterling for TJ McCormack. It's a live radio show. That means it's live. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Catherine, welcome to Another Side of Midnight. Hi. Are you fighting with the phone? Catherine, are you fighting with the phone? You're losing. You're losing the fight. You're losing the fight. Call back. I really don't want her to call back. Dirty Red. You know, that sounds safe. I'm sure there won't be any problem with that. Dirty Red, welcome to Another Side of Midnight. Hi.
Yes, sir. How are you? I just want to say it's not just Santa Claus. You go to the food court, it's like $20 for a pretzel. You go to the movies there, the movies all stink today anyway. It's like $72 for, if you go with your son, 2 popcorns and pay for the ticket, $72. People don't want to go to the mall anymore just for that reason alone. But the Nyack Mall in Nyack, Palisades Mall, that mall is the most dangerous mall in America. I don't know how it is now the last couple of years, but that mall was just a thug hangout. And they didn't even hire cops. They hired security guards who ran the other way when there was trouble. So that's the reason why, other problems besides just Santa Claus. It's just the word greed, like you said. It's true. I wouldn't go to a mall today if you paid me. And they killed the mom and pop shops, which you got a better deal in today. And, malls should be shut down and turned into churches or hospitals or casinos or weed factories. Everything's vice today. There's nobody taking their girl to the mall today because they can't afford it. But anyway, that's all I had to say, and have a good night. God bless.
Hey, buddy, you said a lot. Thank you very much. I appreciate the call. I want to share with you some amazing information that I think you might want to share with your friends, and I'm going to talk about that in just seconds. But coming up in 15 minutes, you and I are going to talk to Dave Scott. And Dave Scott is an expert, if there is such a thing, on UFOs. Now, why are we doing this? Because the President of the United States says he is finally going to release the files on UFOs. But Dave Scott says that's just not true. And he'll give details. And then I will share with you my hard-won opinion about UFOs. And then I want to talk to you at all times. Tartaria. Have you heard about Tartaria? Do you know about Tartaria? Do you know about the mud floods? I want you to think about this. In your city, there is an old building that was there like since the beginning of your town. A courthouse, a complicated church, a big community center, but it has pillars and it has gargoyles and elaborate decorations in the concrete and incredibly complicated mosaics on the floor. You know what I'm talking about. In New York, it was Pennsylvania Station or the Singer Building. But in fact, in every city, the old post office, the original train station, 1 or 2 buildings like that, and they're still there. Just 1 or 2. Let me suggest that there used to be many of those buildings. But when were they built? They were built at a time that people were going around town on dirt roads and horses. And they built these structures that we look at today. And we're like, how did they build those? How did they build those? Why is it that the rest of these buildings aren't like that? When did we start building crap? Why do so many of our office buildings, homes, look uninspired, boring, or just plain ugly? When did that become acceptable? That everything could look like Levittown, that everything could look like a Sears prefab home. You know that great story, right? Long before you were born, Sears and Roebuck, out of their catalog, you could buy a house and it would arrive on a train car and you had to build it yourself. You'd get old Charlie and you'd build it together. And there are many, many, many of the Sears houses left. But you know what? They're kind of ugly. The Levittown homes this model of efficiency, and everybody came back from World War II and they could have a house. Well, guess what? Those are ugly houses. Then you look at pictures of some of the buildings that existed in 1880, 1870, a few of which are still around. You look at the Gilded Age mansions. You see pictures of the Gilded Age mansion. Where are those mansions? They were torn down to build a what? A steel frame office building. Why? Why did that happen? The theory that I like is that those really old, ornate buildings, those incredible concrete, mosaic, gargoyle buildings, they were built long before we were told. That when you study the construction date, the establishment date on those buildings, you can see that those dates were tampered with. They were tampered with. Why were they retampered? Why were they tampered? Why aren't we allowed to see when those great buildings were actually built? In Manhattan, there are several of those buildings, but many, just as many, have been knocked down, gotten rid of, to allow for, quote, more efficient, modern buildings that go up much higher. But they're modern, right? And that's a good thing. That's the idea. There was a country called Tartaria, and Tartaria was a real country, not on the map anymore. It was erased. It disappeared. There's no, you will not find a map of Tartaria, but Tartaria had incredible technology, wireless electricity, flying cars, flying dirigibles that were electrically powered. They were motorized. And then here's the most interesting part to me. When you look at these buildings that were in existence in 1880, 1890, and that have still with us today, and there are very few of them, but you know which ones they were, and you look at these, wait, who built these? In 1880, 1870, they were still going around in horse and buggies on dirt roads. There was no asphalt road. How did they build those buildings? But then look for one characteristic. Not only has the date been adjusted on these buildings, the Tartarian buildings, but also the door openings, the door frames are 8 feet high, 9 feet high, 10 feet high. Then you and I, God bless the History Channel, has revealed that when our country started and people were plowing the land, putting up new housing, putting up new buildings, they'd dig up skeletons, and the skeletons were 8 and 9 feet high. And it'd be in the local newspaper. You could read articles about the skeletons that were 8 and 9 feet tall. And then they mysteriously disappeared to the Smithsonian, the repository of the Tartarian culture, the repository of Tartarian skeletons. It happened because of what is called as the Great Reset. The Great Reset took place in Tartaria during a mud flood. You've seen buildings that when they dig down a little to build a new building and they have to build a basement, they need to dig down far. And there's this old building, 1880 building, and next to it is an empty lot. They dig down in the empty lot to prepare it for a new construction. But when they dig down, there's the real first floor. The real first floor has been underneath ground level for decades, maybe 150 years. It's been down there. Why? Why is it that the first floor and the basement of these buildings, these magnificent buildings, is below ground? Why is that? Well, that's because of the mud flood. That there was a flood throughout North America that covered up the base of these buildings. It was so deep, 10, 20 feet deep, they just left it there and just kept building around it, building up above it. It was impossible without bulldozers to get rid of that, to get rid of all of that. That's Tartaria. I find it to be an amazing story, and you and I will talk more about it coming up in coming days. All right? In coming days. Coming up in 10 minutes, Dave Scott, ufologist, an expert on UFOs and UAPs. And Dave's Dave's approach to UFOs is unique. First of all, he's a journalist. He actually checks facts. He wants to know what's really going on. But he pointed out, he said, when they started using the term UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena or whatever, when they started using the phrase UAP, that made a distinction between things flying around and UFOs. And that had never happened before. My number is 800-848-9222. And I have an email. Shockingly, I have an email. It's waltermsterling@gmail.com. The Red Apple Network has not given me an email address, but that's okay. My entire career, no kidding, no company has given me their email address. They always cite security issues. Now, I don't know what the security issue is because all I'm going to get is spam, but there seems to be a very serious security issue. And therefore, I only have a Gmail, waltermsterling@gmail.com. That's all I get to get. And you and I are going to talk about the UFOs, what Trump threatens to release. We're going to talk about where I am most happy. And what I have learned about where I am most happy, most introverts are most happy. Oh, yeah, you see, you and I are working the third shift, the great shift, the late shift. We're introverts. This is not a place for team players. We are not team players. We like to go to the back of the cave, solve the problem, and then come back out. But we're not team players. In fact, anytime I've heard a boss, a manager say, you know, I like team players, I want to have team players, I'm miserable. From that second on, I'm miserable. Yes, I think there are many fine places for team players. And what are those? Those are called football teams. That's the NFL. Basketball teams. Trevor Lawrence can be a team player. But I'm never going to be a team player. What am I going to be? I will take the meat, go to the back of the cave, chew it, digest it, and then I will come back out and share with you the solution. That's what I will do. Now, what did I have to do now? Let's see. Oh, my goodness. All right, Dave Scott coming up. Walter M. Sterling on the Red Apple Audio Network.
It's Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormick.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios,
here's TJ McCormack.
Oh, my gosh, look at this. TJ McCormack was nice enough to let me talk with you tonight. I'm Walter M. Sterling. Good evening. This is the biggest all-night show on American radio, and we are suffering on I-80. There was the most incredible 30-car backup today on Iowa 80. Just an unbelievable series of chain events. Terrible weather. The eastern part of the United States. I will keep track of the weather during our show. If there's a major change, I'll share it with you. But the temperatures are disgusting. In Paducah, it's 26. Evansville, 24. In Washington, D.C., 37. Moorhead, 37. Roanoke, 45. Where is it warm? Where the hell is it warm? In Florida, it got up to 67. Balmy for Florida. All right, welcome. This is Another Side of Midnight with Walter Sterling, and you and I are talking to Dave Scott. Dave Scott is an expert on all things UFOs. Hello, Dave. Welcome to the big show. Hi.
I'm so excited to be on the air with you, Walter. I literally signed off my own show about 2 minutes before your producer called, and I'm glad to be here to talk some UFOs and weird stuff with you.
Dave Scott hosts a show in Canada. He's a known Canadian. He's not a fake Canadian. He wasn't an American celebrity who said, I'm going to Canada without considering whether or not Canadians want them. Never once have any arrogant celebrity said, yes, I'm going to go to Canada. I'm escaping to Canada. But guess what? The Canadians don't want you. They have no interest in you. And by the way, their immigration laws in Canada, you can't just go to Canada. You have to do things like prove you can speak English or French. You have to live there for 4 years, pay taxes for 4 years before you can even apply for citizenship. Yet here's Dave Scott, who is a native Canadian. He hosts a radio show called Spaced Out Radio, spacedoutradio.com, and he is a broadcaster and a journalist. Now, the President of the United States has threatened to make this big announcement in a couple weeks or a couple months where he's going to release the UFO files. Did he say all? I didn't hear him say all. But it seemed he was pretty determined to do this. What are your feelings, thoughts, ideas, Dave Scott?
Well, after having about 36 hours now to breathe on this, I think that it's a very important matter that is catching a lot of people off guard, especially people in the mainstream media who have kind of downplayed and laughed at this subject for so many years in a row. And you know, people like me who do a show like Spaced Out Radio, we have been able over the years to say, I told you so. I told you it was coming. This wasn't just about wearing tin foil and thinking swamp gas is aliens, Walter. This is a real issue. And if you read some of the remarks on a platform like X, where many politicians and congressional people especially have been going off applauding the president for actually saying something about this and said, okay, if we got him, let's bring him out. But the problem that we have here is if you read what Trump said on Truth Social that got spread around the world, he said he is going to tell everybody to open up the files on extraterrestrials, aliens, UAP data, which is unidentified anomalous phenomena, which in my world equals man-made objects. And then he said UFOs, the UFO files as well. So I think it opens up a real can of worms in a couple of ways, because he didn't say anything about when the forms were going to come out, how they were going to come out. Will that include top secret knowledge that we are expecting in the UFO world? A lot of this subject to stay behind. So really, what are we going to get? My theory on it is that we are going to get UAP files, unidentified anomalous phenomena files, which to me, in my research from a lot of people I've talked to, equals man-made objects, drones, weather balloons. Maybe a secret jet comes out. I don't know, but I don't think they're going to announce anything about aliens or UFOs here on Earth.
Do you think there are any? Is that why he's not going to announce that there are any?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But we also have to remember, too, that whether it's the Department of Energy or whether it's private contractors, I don't believe the U.S. government has any UFOs. I think what they've done in order to cover this story up is they've turned over these craft, these bodies that they may have allegedly recovered, and I think they've turned them over to government contractors, whether it's McDonnell Douglas, Lockheed Skunk Works, Raytheon, you name the company. That's where I think this technology is, because in the political world, the government is and has to respond to FOIA requests, whether they accept them or deny them. Private companies are exempt from this. So no better way to keep this secret than to put it in the hands of private corporations.
All right. Do you have a question for Dave Scott? Do you have an opinion about what the President of the United States claims he's about to do? Here's your phone number. It's 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. I have an opinion. People who have the same job tend to have a litany of jokes that only they understand. Now, here are presidents of the United States. It's a small group of men who have had this job. And my theory is that it's a joke between the presidents. All of the presidents know the answer to whether or not there are UAP files. And I believe the answer is there are not. There are none. However, they sort of agreed to be vague about it. because they realized that as long as they were vague about whether or not they were UFOs, it gave them great power. Only the president knows if there are UFOs, UAPs, and they wink at each other. Notice that when Obama said something that vaguely confirmed that there were UFOs, Trump, like talking to an 8-year-old, said, well, you know, he was very naughty. He said something he shouldn't have said. Well, consider the possibility it's a joke between those men, that there are no UFO files, there are no UAPs, and it's like the presidential joke. As long as they hold this in and don't reveal that there absolutely isn't any, it gives them great power. The power of our imagination as to what it is that they do have, what is in those files. And there must be a lot. It must be very big. But they never said anything like that. We're just making it up. We're filling the void.
Well, do you mind if I give you a little bit of, in your audience, a timeline here?
Oh, you take all the time you want. It's 3:15 in the morning. Everybody has nothing but time.
Okay. Well, this story actually started about a month ago, where a former guest of mine, Mark Christopher Lee, who is out of the United Kingdom, he's a documentarian about UFOs. He actually, out of nowhere, came out with a tweet on X that said that he has a source within the White House that President Trump, on the 79th anniversary of the Roswell incident, which is July 8th, that he was going to disclose UFO files. He was going to open them up. And he was steadfast on this. He took a lot of beatings online about this alleged source. And I'll be honest with you, I said point blank, even on your show, that this wasn't going to happen. I doubt it would happen. You know, why would somebody from the United Kingdom, a documentarian, not even a journalist, come out and say this? It just didn't make sense, and it just seemed like it could be potential false information. He followed that up about 10 days later and said that his source was going to come out at a press conference that they were going to hold, and that his source, people would know who this person is once they saw who it was, and they were going to make the announcement that Trump already had the speech written for that day on the Roswell incident. Well, the anniversary of it. We followed that up from July 8th. He came back out and said that, the date has been moved up to May 1st. Well, this is getting interesting. The date is changing. This, for many of us, shows a little bit of a lack of credibility in the story. Then it followed up with Lara Trump, who is Donald Trump's daughter-in-law, going on her podcast saying that her and her husband, Eric, usually have a very candid and open conversations with Donald Trump. And when they asked him about this alleged disclosure, Trump became very quiet and sheepish about it, which actually caught her and Eric off guard. So she said, maybe there is something to this. Maybe there is a speech that is written, and he's just not saying anything about it. And then it followed up with Barack Obama going on a podcast where he came out and said aliens are real, although they are not at Area 51, and there are no deep underground bunkers in Area 51 to hide this stuff. The fact that he chose Area 51 is very significant because Obama, during his tenure as president, became the first president to finally admit the worst secret ever, that Area 51 existed. No other president had ever talked about the existence of Area 51 before Obama confirmed it. Now, Obama has been asked the UFO question many, many times over the years, from late-night talk show hosts to little kids who are getting an interview, playing journalist with the president in one of those cute little television presser moments that they seem to have. So the fact that he mentioned Area 51 and the fact that aliens are real, everybody in my community was absolutely dumbfounded. Like, did you hear Obama say this? And we were like, wow, this is unbelievable.
Dave Scott, host of Spaced Out Radio, website spacedoutradio.com. He's an expert on UFOs. He's studied it pretty much his whole life. He's a journalist, looks for facts. And at the end of this, do you think we're going to get any answers, or do you think it's going to be a lot of wordplay?
Walter, I think it's going to be a lot of wordplay. And this is where, over the years, the last few years especially, I have personally taken a lot of heat from many of my audience members and people in the UFO community combined, because I have been one of the only ones championing the real difference between the unidentified anomalous phenomena and UFOs. So UAP versus UFOs. Now, when the term UAP came out, Hillary Clinton actually popularized it when she was running for president, because she was asked the UFO question. I think it was either Jimmy Kimmel or the other Jimmy. Both of them are not funny anyways. And she was asked that question, and she goes, well, we don't call them UFOs anymore. We call them UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena, which has now changed to unidentified anomalous phenomena. So it really had all these newbies kind of jumping on the UFO board, with this UAP this, UAP that. But people that I have talked to, from people who've worked in top secret projects to the CIA, to the NSA, to the NRO, have actually told me point blank, there is a difference between the UAP and the UFO. UAP are man-made objects like drones, like Mylar balloons, weather balloons, like other technologies, secret aircraft that we don't even know of yet. And a UAP, remember, can also be a bird. It can be some sort of tinting from the sun that hits an airplane the wrong way. It could be anything that is naturally caused. What we're not talking about, and hidden inside that, is unidentified flying objects. What are they? Where do they come from? How many are there? How are they getting here? Are they coming from outer space, or are they somehow figuring out a way that maybe they figured out time travel or how to hop through different dimensions in order to get where they need to go? So it is a very touchy subject regarding this. And, a lot of people will say, semantics maybe doesn't matter, but in this case, it actually does. Because I'm in the business of wanting to know what UFOs are. I'm not in the business to try and figure out what the government is actually hiding under the UAP banner.
Right. Dave Scott, expert on UFOs, host of Spaced Out Radio. It's your turn to talk to Dave Scott. You're a Midnight Misfit. You have questions about the UFOs, UAPs. This is your time. My phone number is 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. You and I get to talk to Dave Scott, known Canadian, spent thousands of hours of his life studying this subject, and he was an abductee. That's right, he was an abductee. Yes, multiple abductee. 800-848-9222. Walter M. Sterling for TJ McCormack on Another Side of Midnight.
It's Another Side of Midnight.
If you're starting this new year wanting more control of your health instead of leaving it to a broken system, well, then the pharmacy for you is All Family Pharmacy. You see, they help people get access to essential medications, including some that the big chain pharmacies make it hard to get or refuse to even carry. That's why so many families rely on them. When everyone around you is getting sick and you want to prepare, you need All Family Pharmacy. You're tired of dealing with insurance and want affordable medications, you need All Family Pharmacy. And when your doctors refuse to prescribe ivermectin and treat you like you're out of line for asking intelligent questions, you need All Family Pharmacy. See, the process is quite simple. You order online, a licensed doctor reviews it, and your medications shipped to your door. They carry antibiotics, Tamiflu, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, mebendazole, and all of your everyday necessary medications and more. So if you haven't already, switch to a pharmacy that you can rely on. You can do so by going to allfamilypharmacy.com/stone, and please use STONE10 as your code to save 10% on your next purchase.
It's Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormick.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios,
here's TJ McCormack.
All right, Walter M. Sterling for TJ McCormack, Another Side of Midnight. Thank you, TJ, for letting me share this time with my Midnight Misfits. We enjoy taking phone calls, getting to know each other because we're special. We have decided to work and live at this time. This is a special group. We are introverts. We don't want to be bothered. We don't want to fill out any forms. This is our time. You and I are talking to Dave Scott, a Canadian. Yes, an actual Canadian, not one that escaped. And he's an expert on UFOs. He's a journalist, knows his stuff. Ed Babylon, welcome to Another Side of Midnight. Hello, Ed. You're on the air with Dave Scott. Hi.
If I have a thank you. Can you hear me?
Ed, not only can we hear you, but you have a sonorous voice, and it's kind of sexual.
Well, I'm a Pisces. What can I tell you? Hey, I give respect. But I have a story about seeing a UFO and another sighting that my physics professor told me about. I had a girlfriend. We're in the North Shore of Long Island, and we're sitting on a jetty, both of us just relaxing, looking up at the sky. And I've taken physics in college, and I knew how long it took for a satellite to go across the Earth, just about, and come back, with the Earth's diameter and everything. He did that in the Adirondacks in a lean-to with friends, and I said, there it is. We're just gliding across the sky. You can see it. And then we're sitting on this jetty, girlfriend and I, and we see, I saw this white light, looking, it could be an airplane or a helicopter, had no identifying lights on it, red or anything else, and then it zigzagged in the sky, and then it went straight and got bigger and smaller and bigger and smaller, then it went poof, and it just disappeared. And in all my, earnest truthfulness, I thought, I'll never hear from her. And she was looking up to the left. I was looking to the right. She said, I got a jab in the ribs from her elbow. She said, my God, did you see that? And we still talk about it to this day. That.
Well, how did it make you feel? And I really enjoy Wait. I really enjoy conversations from people who have actually seen UFOs, and I hope you call at 800-848-9222. But how did it make you feel to see this UFO? How did it make your girlfriend feel?
She's married to someone else now.
Oh, my God.
Maybe we were picked up, we're special. We didn't know. But I also had another girlfriend was driving down this Deer Park Avenue with her going north. And suddenly, I don't know what happened. We both had amnesia, and when we were driving south on the same road, which really, I don't know if she remembered that, but she probably would. My physics professor, Dr. John Geschwintener.
God bless you.
Who was, love your sense of humor. Thank you. He was in the Luftwaffe as a meteorologist. But the important thing was his father was a publisher in Austria. In Vienna, Austria. And there was a sighting, he said, that was written up by 300-400 people.
But Ed,
cigar-shaped.
Yeah, did he see it? But Ed, did he see it? And thank you very much for your call. Yes, I appreciate the call. 800-848-9222. You and I are talking to Dave Scott, expert on UFOs. What do you want me to do next? Elizabeth? Does Elizabeth make you happy? Good. All right, Elizabeth, you're on the phone with Dave Scott at 800-848-9222 talking about your UFO experience. Hi.
Hi, Dave and Walter. I was curious if you all, I did not see a UFO myself. I have seen ghosts, but not UFOs. Anyway, Project Bluebeam, I didn't know if you all had talked about that because I just tuned in a short time ago.
Dave, what do you know about Project Bluebeam? Yeah.
Oh, it goes back a long, long time ago. And it is something that, I haven't honestly been asked this question in a long, long time. So please forgive me for my lack of stuttering here on this. But, I mean, it is one of the popular conspiracy theories that we deal with.
Well, what is it? What is it?
Well, it is a theory that came out in the 90s that is about whether or not this phenomena is tied to anything from alien events to religious events to try and reshape any type of global type of belief systems. So it's about mind control. It's about population control. It's about trying to put all of these engineering ideas together that have formed and shaped the world. So has it happened? I mean, the way the world is going right now, you got to think there is some reality to Project Bluebeam. The way, I mean, we keep hearing about Project 2030 and Project 2035, and you never know what's going to happen with all of this. So, is this a move by the New World Order? Could be. Aliens could be a part of that, Walter.
Well, now, Elizabeth, because I still don't understand what Project Bluebeam is. Elizabeth, in your opinion, what is Project Bluebeam?
Well, Project Bluebeam was popularized by a guy named Serge Monast, and it was back in the 90s, I think. And yes, he alleged that there is a secret global plan to establish a one-world government. He claimed that the government would stage a fake supernatural or alien event, and that this would include, like Dave said, religious figures, would be simulated, and it was to bring the world together and justify global control.
And how do you feel about that? Do you think that's possible? I don't think the physics, the sheer physicality of bringing the world together under one leadership is possible. The number of people involved, the cultures involved to blend them all, I think that's an old man fantasy. What do you think?
Well, I'll give you one little last fact, and you can decide. Disney has a patent on holographic technology. And Disney, there have been people who have called frantically, to the police saying, hey, I see something giant in the sky. And they actually simulated a UFO in the sky. They didn't admit to doing that, but Disney is the only people that own that technology. So they license it out to people.
I would be quick to believe that Disney is responsible for many things like that, Elizabeth. And thank you very much for calling Another Side of Midnight at 800-848-9222. You and I are sharing time with Dave Scott, a known Canadian. Guy, welcome to Another Side of Midnight. Hi.
Hey, how are you? For taking my call.
Sure.
I was listening earlier, and you were talking about the AI stuff, but I don't want to bring that up yet because it might cut me off before I get to my real point.
Wait. No, I want to wait. I want to hear your real point. I, Walter Sterling, have never discussed AI. It's not me.
Maybe it was a couple hours ago. They were playing a previous show, but I want to talk about the UFO thing. Yes. I was wondering, have you seen the movie from the late 80s called They Live, directed by John Carpenter?
I personally have not. That movie came out way before I was in the UFO world.
Okay, so it's come back to me now, and it's very interesting that in that movie, the storyline is he puts on these sunglasses and he can see aliens that are among us, right? And at the end of this movie, they basically infiltrate where these people are from, and there's a guy on stage, and he's talking about the human power elite, and saying how, they've recruited humans among us and these aliens are among us. And then they show a scene where he shows them teleporting to another planet. And he goes, that's where they come from. And he goes, it has something to do with the gravitational lens and the bending of the light. And this whole alien thing that's coming out right now, I think it's very interesting because people are saying, oh, it's a distraction from the Epstein files. But I think that there might be a connection to it. I think it's this alien thing. We might be thinking of these green people in UFOs. It might not be that. It might be something else. It might be
what
something a lot. I don't. Like I said, I mean, I would invite you to watch the movie. It would explain it more.
But I don't have to watch the movie. You listen to me. Listen to me. I don't have to watch the movie. You watched the movie. Tell us what the point is from the movie. What'd you learn from the movie?
They're saying that, the whole thing with Epstein is that he was very into gravity and physics and MIT and Stephen Hawking and there was more going on. And, New Mexico, the fact that he could buy a ranch anywhere in the world, he buys a ranch in New Mexico.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you ever thought about that connection.
Guy,
there could be,
and I appreciate the call. Thank you very much. This Epstein guy, this Jeff Epstein guy, this was the busiest guy on earth. Now he's into UFOs, New Mexico, 14-year-old girls, 17-year-old girls, 25-year-old girls, old men. He managed money portfolios. He dealt with the Queen of England, the King of England, the Prince Andrew of England. This was the busiest human being on earth. For a guy who didn't graduate from college, it's fairly astonishing. Michael in New Jersey, welcome to Another Side of Midnight with Dave Scott, our guest from Canada, who's an expert on UFOs. And I want to hear about your thoughts and your experiences with UFOs because our president is saying, hey, I'm going to release all of these files very soon. I promise. I personally think this is the joke among presidents. I believe that this is like the joke among presidents. Like it's their one joke where they go, yeah, let's tell them, we know about these UFOs. And the answer is there's nothing. But as long as they say there's something, our imagination is such that we give them great power for this fact. Amazing. Michael, hi.
I'll make it right to the point. I'm 73 years old. I'm an amateur UFO investigator for 40 years. I had my own sighting, which I never thought I would have. But
tell me about the sighting. I don't care about. Right. I don't care about the other crap. Tell me about your sighting.
Okay. All right. I was on Route 3 in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And I was in a taxi cab. I had my head back against the seat. I saw a bright white light ahead of me. And I'm saying to myself, wow, what is that light? Maybe it's a radio tower. And then I said to myself, wait a minute, there's no radio towers in this area. Long story short, I get up. I said to the taxi driver, do you see that? He said, well, I see the light. We get up right next to it, and this is what I saw. A solid black object shaped like a devilfish, like a stingray. I'm going back to 1975, and I could still draw you a picture. Underneath it were red lights in a circle, hanging perfectly still, not moving. The reason I could see the metal is it wasn't that high from the ground. I'm not good at this, but I'd say maybe 300 feet or less, and it's just hanging there. I said to the taxi driver, do you see that? He said, I see it. And he's trying to look at it and keep his eye on the road at the same time. I said to him, look, let me tell you something. If we pull off and we slow down almost to a stop at the exit, and that thing is still there, then I know what we're seeing is something unusual. We pull up, we all pull up to a stop. I turn around. It's hanging right there on the side of the highway. The white light I had seen from a distance was coming from the back of it. And in the front of it, it was like a nose cone with one big white headlight just hanging there. This wasn't just a light I saw. I saw an object. It was black metal, black shiny metal. There it was. I got home. I called the Bloomfield Police Department. They hooked me gave me a phone number for a UFO investigating group in Colorado.
MUFON.
I called them. Yeah. I called them, and the lady who answered the phone said to me, how did you get this number? I said, well, the police department gave it to me. She said, you're not supposed to have this number, and hung up on me. That's my story.
That's a great story, Michael. These are the kind of stories that we love. Dave Scott, do you have any thoughts on Michael's story?
Absolutely, I do. I love the fact that he mentioned the stingray, because the stingray actually comes up quite a bit, including, I'm going to give you the name of an author, T. Alan Greenfield. He wrote a book called The Secret Cipher of UFO Knots, where he actually talks about UFO craft being shaped like stingrays or having stingrays painted on the side of them. Now, we don't know why this is actually going on with these UFOs, but yes, stingrays, the fact that you mentioned the word stingray, it totally piqued my interest, and I think you saw a legitimate UFO.
Michael, congratulations on having seen a legitimate UFO. Thank you very much for your call at 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. More Dave Scott from Canada in just seconds. I'm Walter M. Sterling for TJ McCormack, live, yes, live, at the special time of day on Another Side of Midnight.
It's Another Side of Midnight.
You know, I thought my dogs, Mimi and Pee-wee 2.0, were just getting old, losing that spark. But a few weeks ago, after adding Rough Greens to their food, I saw a marked difference. They got their energy back. Their coats looked amazing. And they're playing like puppies again. Rough Greens totally changed the game. Rough Greens isn't some food gimmick. It's a live nutritional supplement you just sprinkle right on their food. No need to switch, kibble, or wet food. Just add it in. It's packed with probiotics, vitamins, omega oils, stuff that helps their joints, their digestion, and even their immune support. Why does it work? Because dog food is dead food. It's been cooked and processed until all the good stuff is gone. Rough Greens brings back the nutrition our pets really need. I don't just recommend Rough Greens. I depend on it to keep my dogs both happy and healthy. Right now, Rough Greens is offering a free Jumpstart trial bag. You just cover the cost of shipping. Go to roughgreens.com and use promo code STONE. That's roughgreens.com, promo code STONE.
It's Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormick.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios,
here's TJ McCormack.
TJ McCormack Show. Thank you very much. I'm Walter M. Sterling. I get to talk to you. Thank you, TJ, for making that happen. If I was offered a job on the radio in Morning Drive, I would say no. If I was offered midday, I would say no. This is the time of day to be on the radio because it's just you and me. And we get to have fun. We get to talk to things like UFOs and UAPs because that's what really matters. That's what I care about. And I know you do too. You and I are talking to Dave Scott, who hosts a show called Spaced Out Radio, a known Canadian doing a known Canadian show. Every single show that Dave has done, you can get on YouTube. Spaced Out Radio. He's an expert on UFOs and UAPs and a journalist, not some hack talk show host. He actually studies it, gets the facts. For Russ, welcome to Another Side of Midnight. Russ, welcome to the Giant Radio Show. You and I are talking to Dave Scott. Hi.
Morning, gentlemen.
Gentlemen.
A couple of summers ago, it was a warm July evening, not a cloud in the sky, had the patio door open, we're watching TV. And we happen to have Dish Networks. We got a little satellite dish out in the backyard. And on the TV, the screen comes up that says, obstruction is blocking your view, etc. style, usually when there's thick clouds, that type thing. When that clears, your TV will come back on. Wait for, a minute or so. Step out onto the deck because, like I said, there's not a cloud in the sky. Patio doors open. Look up, and there's a big black object going across our field about 100 yards from where I'm standing. And I say 100 yards because we've, measured it out with our scopes and that stuff while hunting that type of stuff many times. It's just big black. I can see a silhouette against the sky. There's no noise, and it's just above tree level going from east to west. I could see a light like on the south end of whatever it was, and I could see a light what appeared to be on the north end of whatever it was. And this thing is about 100 yards wide, and it's wider than it is high, and it's just slowly going across the field at the top, at treetop level. Now, it must have been right it's either emitting something or was physically right in the path of between the satellite dish and the satellite I was receiving at the time it stopped. And it had to be right next to the house because the direction you could figure out just by looking at where the dish is and the distance it was moving. But whatever it is, it existed. It was there. It wasn't kinder or maybe. And I would say it was at least about 100 yards wide.
Dave Scott, do you have a question for Russ about his sighting? Dave? Hello, Dave. Dave, do you have a question for Russ about his sighting? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Canadian phone service there. I apologize.
Sorry.
Yes, I actually do have a question. Russ, did it make a sound or was it silent?
Not a sound. Like I say, there wasn't no wind, no nothing, so that might block it. So I could hear it very well, and it was very close. Not a sound.
And what shape was it?
From my angle, I can't really tell you because, like I say, I could see the black silhouette, and I know it was 100 yards because, again, the distance we mark off in the field. And from what I could see, it was definitely, 100 yards wide, so to speak. Height, was substantially less than that, but I couldn't really give you a measurement, so to speak. But it was obviously there. It was obviously close. Not a sound.
All right, Russ, thank you very much for calling. Another Side of Midnight at 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. You and I are talking about UFOs, UAPs, because the President of the United States finally is saying, I will release the files. And to make sure we get the questions right, Dave Scott, expert on UFOs, Anthony, Long Island, welcome to Another Side of Midnight.
Hi, thank you for this great discussion. I find it all to be quite laughable. It's an age-old question, and the Fermi paradox discussed this for, probably the last 50 years or so, and it's basically impossible, and I don't know what all these people are talking about, but it's not true. I mean, it's not a reality, and did you know that Jeffrey Epstein was said to have won the Powerball twice? What is the mathematical odds of that being possible? And my understanding is that it's impossible.
Well, I thank you very much for the call, Anthony. What are the odds of me getting through an entire show without anybody talking about Jeffrey Epstein? That is the key question. David on Long Island? No, David on Staten Island. David on Staten Island, you have a UFO picture, is that right, Dave Scott? This man has a picture. I got
them off the internet, and guess what? They are real. I have two pictures. I copied them, and I still have them. As of many years, I wouldn't let them lose them. I've been interested in aviation since I was a child, where I almost got killed going off a 3-story porch. I survived with a fractured skull. But I had an interest ever since then to get into aviation. I joined the Air Force. They kicked me out after 2 weeks. Honorable discharge.
Well, thank you very much for the call, David. I appreciate the call and your entire resume for your entire life. Thank you for that. I have a tip when you call a talk station. This is a tip for you. Don't give your age. No one cares how old you are, because notice that when a 28-year-old calls in, and they don't say, I'm 28. For some reason, something happens to the brain when it approaches 70. It feels compelled to announce how old it is all the time. No matter what you do, it feels the need to announce its age. Dave Scott.
Yes.
What do you think is going to happen? What do you think the president's going to do? Let's sum this up. It's a very important discussion, and you are the expert, even though you are Canadian.
Well, I'm 52. So I will be 53 this year. No, I'm sorry. I had to.
You had to.
I had to. I think what's going to happen here, before this all happened, Walter, I really believe that if President Trump had the speech made, he was going to say something along the lines that we found a signal out there. It's not coming from a meteor or an asteroid, or believe it or not, space actually makes a lot of rumbling type sound, but an actual signal from a planet in one of our constellations that's in the Goldilocks zone. And that's what I thought was going to happen. Now I really don't know. It's easy for President Trump to sit there and say, hey, we're going to release the files. But what kind of files are we going to get? Because in the end, the one thing that the U.S. government is very staunch on
is top secret process. Is this going to affect the security of the United States of America? That is the number one priority. If they can find a solution around that with UFOs, I can see them maybe doing something. If anything that he releases, it may be the Roswell files. And the reason why I say that is because after his first term, Donald Trump went on a podcast with his son, Donald Jr., and was asked the Roswell question. He kind of sheepishly bounced around it, that he wasn't going to release anything, that he didn't really believe in this subject. Well, prior to this, Laura Trump and Eric Trump also brought up Roswell. What's happening at Roswell? So there's obviously Roswell conversation going on in the Trump family. If he brings up anything, I believe it'll be Roswell, but don't hedge your bets that it's going to be aliens or UFOs or that we have crash retrievals, because that's just going to open up a Pandora's box of a lot of trouble for the Defense Department and the U.S. government.
Dave Scott, how do we find you online?
Thank you. SpacedOutRadio.com is my website. On social media, whether it's Facebook, X, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio. I'd love to hear from you. If you want to email me, info@spacedoutradio.com.
Walter M. Sterling, Another Side of Midnight, featuring Dave Scott, Canadian, host of Spaced Out Radio. Thank you very much, Mr. Scott, for being on Another Side of Midnight. Good evening. This is a live radio show. Congratulations. You found the only live radio show on American radio right now. Believe it or not, there's been a dramatic change in American education in the past 4 years. Not a little something, not an academic change, a profound change. And I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. You ready? The profound change is that for the first time in the history of standardized testing, the entire country in math, reading, writing, the standardized scores have gone down. They've gone down. For the past 4 years, standardized scores, public schools in America, they've gone down. Now, I care about this because I'm an American, but I also care about it because I have 3 daughters who are in school. My 14-year-old baby, she's in school. And these kids have had a horrendous 5 years that's not discussed. These kids have been punished by technology. The shift from classroom physical learning, teachers standing in front of the room, papers handed out, workbooks handed out, textbooks taken home, to everything on Zoom, online, on social media, all of the education going online. The minute that happened is the minute that our test scores started to go down. Couple problems with online learning. You ready? Number one, very few teachers know how to do it, and that's not their fault. They weren't taught it in teacher school. When they went to teacher school, there wasn't Zoom. When they went to teacher school, there was not a whole semester of just how do we teach kids online. That didn't happen. They got COVID. The COVID smacked them into a whole new way to have to teach, which was on Zoom. And there were some things that happened on Zoom that you don't know about, but I do, that teachers didn't anticipate. Number one, oh, that's right, the kids can turn off their cameras. The kids can go online, get counted for attendance, but then they can turn off their cameras. And there's no recourse. There's no recourse. There's nothing, it's no different technically, legally, than a kid sitting in class closing their eyes. It's no different. Number one, they don't know how to teach online. Sure, there's some teachers who figured it out, but then it affects the different kids. Different kids know how to learn online and other kids don't. Most don't. Most kids do not know how to learn online. It is a physical 3D process. Most kids need to have a 3D process where they see a blackboard, they see an overhead projector, they see a PowerPoint, they see a teacher, oh my gosh, she's handing out a test. That stopped. And when that stopped, test scores started going down. Secondly, schools have blamed the wrong thing. They've blamed iPhones. Oh, the problem with school, the problem with these test scores is iPhones. The reason kids are doing worse in school is iPhones. No. No. Throughout the history of mankind, think about this. Throughout the history of mankind, there's always been a threatening technology to the classroom. There's always been something that has threatened to steal attention away from the good moral values of kids and the attention of their brains to learn new information. Well, 100 years ago, it was air pollution and the car. The car was making a lot of noise outside. All of a sudden, the horses went away. Now there are cars, major distraction. Kids couldn't learn. Then radio came along. You put it under your pillow. You could listen to the radio while you were doing homework or while you were supposed to be reading. And the problem was the radio. When television arrived, many, many different companies wanted to put television sets in classrooms. They wanted teachers to be able to have access to educational television in the classrooms. And you know what happened? Very few school systems allowed the threat of a television set in the classroom. Very few allowed a television set in the classroom, as amazing and stupid as that was. And now they want to blame the iPhone and the telephone and the cell phone. And they make kids check in their phones at the beginning of the school day. For what? First of all, and this is a minor detail among legalese people, but this is very real. Those cell phones do not belong to those children. They may be carrying them, they may be carrying them, they may have them in their hands, but they don't belong to those kids. They belong to their parents. The kids we're giving them as a gift, but no 12-year-old can buy a cell phone. Can't afford that. They don't make that bill payment. The parent does. It is not up to the school to decide to take away the kid's cell phone. It's up to a parent. And a parent will be, no, I gave the kid the cell phone because the kid needs the cell phone. That's how the kid stays safe. I know where the child is. I know what they're doing. There's no reason. I know. Why don't you put the curriculum on the phone? Why don't you put part of the curriculum on the phone? They're already going to the phone. They already like the phone. Why don't you use it as another teaching tool? Well, that never seems to be an option, does it? That never seems to be an option. They don't want to use the cell phone as another teaching tool. They want to just take it away. There are children who suffer from anxiety disorders. They're just very nervous all the time. They're sick to their stomach when they have to go to school. They're sick to their stomach when they get asked a question. And that cell phone is a pacifier. That cell phone puts them in touch with their mom and dad, puts them in touch with whoever makes them feel safe. They need that phone. It is cruel, unnecessary, and, in my opinion, illegal to steal the phone from the kid even for a couple hours. That's their big solution, not a better curriculum, more exciting classroom, a better physical environment. No. We're just going to solve everything by taking away their iPhone. Really? Is that right? Have you had this experience with your kids? Because I have. And I know that my kids were doing good enough to being great in school until COVID hit. And the minute they started to learn on Zoom, quote, learn on Zoom, grades fell down. They got discouraged. They got depressed. They're like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to learn on Zoom. Well, why would they? They were never raised to learn to use Zoom and their laptop for learning. Never. And no teacher was taught how to teach on it. That is my experience. My phone number is 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. I'm Walter M. Sterling for TJ McCormack. The name of the show is Another Side of Midnight on the Red Apple Audio Network.
Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormick.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios,
here's TJ McCormick.
Oh, no. It's Walter M. Sterling. Here we are in the great shift, the late shift. This is a heck of a night for weather. Another winter storm is set to hit America over this weekend, battering cities with snow, fierce winds, torrential downpours. Winter storm Hernando is due to bring freezing winds and temperatures as low as 30 degrees to the northeast and mid-Atlantic. The storm is set taking shape Saturday and to last through Monday. Here it is again. Another winter storm is set to hit America over the weekend, battering cities with snow, fierce winds, and torrential downpours. Winter storm Hernando is due to bring freezing winds and temperatures as low as 30 degrees to the northeast and mid-Atlantic. The storm is set to start taking shape Saturday and last through Monday. It's a big storm, but it's worse than just snow. It's got nasty winds. I was out there. It was not a good time. It was tough. It was rotten. And already on I-80 in Iowa, there was a 30-mile, I keep saying mile, a 30-car backup, a 30-car crash. Did you see this? Were you part of that mess? I'd love to hear from you. 800-848-9299. What did I say? 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. Always good to hear from you on Another Side of Midnight. I am the father of 3 daughters. I have a 22-year-old, a 20-year-old, and a 14-year-old. And therefore, I do not feel safe at home. Whenever I'm in the hospital or at a doctor's office, and they always whisper, "Do you feel safe at home?" I'm like, no, I have 3 daughters and 2 female cats. At no time do I feel safe. My life is threatened at every turn. Every single thing I do is reviewed, criticized, critiqued. There is no moment of safety. But one of the things that I heard today from my friend Lee Harris, I couldn't believe he said it. Now, Lee Harris is a very big deal radio broadcaster in New York City. He was the most listened to voice in New York City for 29 years. He's very official. He's a very big voice. He's very big. Everything he says is very, very important. And he mentioned to me today that he was flying to Paris tomorrow. And I'm like, gee, that must be nice. You're flying to Paris. What are you flying there for? To fly to Berlin. Oh, how long are you going to be in Berlin? 3 days. I'm in Berlin 3 days, and I'll be home in a week. So I'll be gone for a week, he said, Lee Harris said. I said, to do what? Well, to get away, to fly. To get away from what? He's not working. He's like, he's smarter than the rest of us. He doesn't have to work. What are you doing? And then he confessed the behavior that most business people and most frequent flyers have. And the confession is this. I don't know, as an introvert, I don't know as somebody who wants to be alone if you can relate to this, but when he said it, I'm like, busted. He said, the reason I'm getting on a plane and going to Berlin and coming back is I am happiest when I'm on an airplane. And I'm like, yes, I am happiest when I'm on an airplane. Why? I'm alone. It appears as though I'm doing something busy. People think I'm busy. Oh, he's on an airplane trip. He's a business trip. Very busy man. No, that's just not true. I'm sitting on a plane doing nothing. Reading, goofing off on the internet, sleeping when I want to. It is an instant vacation. If I'm on a 7 or 8 hour flight, to me, that's as good as 2 weeks in Bermuda because I'm left alone. I can raise my little finger and somebody will bring me whatever food or drink or anything that I want. I couldn't be happier than when I'm on an airplane. And I had never heard anybody else say it. I've heard many people say, oh, I love to get away. I love to go on vacation. I can't wait to get to another place. I've heard that. You've heard that. But I think sometimes what they're really saying, those people who can't wait to get away, is they can't wait to get on an airplane. A good airplane seat, which is not universal and not always easy to get, but a good airplane seat is, to me, a week at the shore 2 weeks in Bermuda. It's incredible to sit in a good airplane seat and be left alone for 6 or 7 hours. And morally, it works very much like jury duty. If you ever get the opportunity to do jury duty, do it. Because here's what will happen. You ready? You go to the jury, and for some reason, all courthouses in America are near Chinatown. You get there, you have to be there by 6, 7, no, by 10. You got to be at jury duty by 10. Then, around noon, you're not called for a jury. You haven't been interviewed for anything. They say, go to lunch. Well, how long's the lunch? 2 hours. You get a 2-hour lunch on jury duty. You go, and it's right always by Chinatown. Every city in America, jury duty is by Chinatown. You get to go to the good Chinese restaurants, which never have bourbon chicken. You get the good Chinese restaurant. You're back by 2. You're sitting there, and they send you home at 3. You feel as though you've done something noble, but more importantly, your family and friends think you've done something noble. Oh, you're doing jury duty. Good for you. Good for you. Congratulations for doing jury duty. That's good for all of us. We appreciate it. And you've done jury duty. And you're thought of well. Meanwhile, what'd you have? A day off. You had a day off. They might have paid you $60, but you didn't have to do anything. You could read magazines. You know, in jury duty, they don't take away your phones. You have your phones. You can read whatever you want. It's unbelievably relaxing, but more importantly, you are noble. You are noble for doing it, right? Same thing with long airplane trips, business airplane trips. Oh, it's so good that you're doing that. But again, you've done nothing. You've done absolutely nothing. There's jury duty. I love to take those long airplane trips. Now, it used to be a little better. Not too long ago, if you didn't buy a first-class ticket, you could pretty easily get upgraded. And there were 2 ways you could do it, but it's much harder now with the computer waiting system and the computer telling you when it's going to happen, and it's much harder now. I used to go up to people behind the ticket counter right at the gate, and I'd look at the guy, I'd look at the woman, and it was always very important that nobody else could hear me do this. I'd look at them and say, so, what do you want? Can I get you a cigar, or do you want yogurt? And they'd tell me, and I'd get it for them. And I'd come back and I'd say, I know sometimes you like to keep families together, and if I can give up my coach seat and sit in first class to keep a family together, I'd be happy to help you. And I'd get upgraded because I'm keeping a family together. And that worked. Once, though, I did it on Delta. Now, I wasn't a Delta guy. I was an American Airlines guy. So I'm an American Airlines guy. But I'm in L.A., and for some reason, because of the schedule or something, I was taking this Delta flight. Delta people are known for much less of a sense of humor than American people. I go up to this ticket counter, and there's a real Delta employee. This is a trim, handsome, 50-something man. He's been at Delta for 30 years. There's not a lot of nonsense there. I go up to him and I say, sir, I'm old and I'm tired. And if I can help you by keeping a family together, I'll give up my coach seat and sit in first class. And he looked at me mad. He took my ticket, my boarding pass, and said, sit over there. And I thought I was in big trouble because this was a Delta guy. This wasn't like Spirit or JetBlue. This was a Delta guy at LAX. I get now he's boarding the plane. He's boarding the plane. It's the last nonstop from LA to New York. He's boarding the plane. Everybody's on the plane now. I'm still sitting there because he told me, sit there. Go over there, sit down. Everybody gets back on the plane. He walks over to me. He comes around the ticket counter. He walks over to me. He hands me a boarding pass. It says 1B. 1B. A golden boarding pass, if there ever was one. 1B. And he looks at me, he says, that old and tired line, that'll work every time. And I'm like, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. But there was a time, and I can only describe this time as airline porn. There was a time when it was almost okay to fly, when it was a vaguely pleasant experience, I would, and to this day, the odds of getting upgraded on any airline are much better if I'm well-dressed. If a person's well-dressed, your odds of getting upgraded are pretty good. On almost every flight to anywhere, there is an unsold first-class seat. Your job is to get that first-class seat. Here's what I do. 9 times out of 10, it works. This may be the most important secret I reveal to you on Another Side of Midnight. You're listening to a live radio show. You and I get to talk at any time at 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. I am revealing my secrets of getting upgraded on an airplane from coach to first, because that's what we really want to know. You can forget about all the other nonsense about flying. We really want to know, how do I get upgraded without having to pay? How does that happen? Here's what I do. When I walk, and it takes a certain frame of mind, I dress as well as I can for an airplane flight. Like if I'm flying from New York to Syracuse, I'm not in a big hurry to put on my best suit, but I will dress nicely, right? So I dress nicely. But when I get on the plane, I look at the flight attendant right at the gate, that one right at the door. I look at the flight attendant. How are you today? How's it going? How's it feeling? I really look forward to flying with you today. Nice to meet you. I talk to her. I talk to him. And then I go sit down, right? And I don't cause any trouble. If they ask me to do something, sit here, do this, I do it. Cause no trouble. Cause no trouble. And then the plane starts to fill up. They're about ready to take off, or maybe they take off. 9 times out of 10, they will come up to me after and say, listen, could you come with me, sir? And you think you're in trouble. You're not in trouble. They give you the first class seat. This happens to me about 9 times out of 10. It's a wonderful feeling. 800-848-9222. I have also found that with the gate agents, I can get free passes to the airport lounge, again, just by talking to them. Anytime you get grumpy, forget it. You're not getting anything out of them. But like you, I missed those flights. There was I get on a plane once to go from Portland to New York, and it was 747. And I was the last one on. I don't know. I don't know how I got on last, but I got on last. I had a first class seat. I sit down, and the seat next to me is empty. I'm at the window. Seat next to me is empty. Plane takes off. Really happy and attractive flight attendant. She comes over. She doesn't come over to say, what would you like for breakfast, sir? Where are you going? Are you comfortable? No, she comes over and sits down next to me. And the flight has just begun. She sits down next to me and we're talking. And then rather than getting up to do the next meal service, rather than getting up and asking the other people on the plane if they need a drink, she sits next to me so long, they have to come over and ask her for a drink. They come over and ask her, do you have any breakfast? She's not getting up for them. She's not getting up sitting next to me. This was a major event in my life, as you can imagine. But it tricked me because I talked to her for 5 hours going from Portland to New York. She leaned her seat back to match mine. She's looking me in the eye, talking the whole time. We're having a wonderful time, but she has a job. And I keep thinking, you're not doing your job. You're going to get in trouble. But I didn't care. It was her problem, right? Toward the end of the flight, I did what you would have done. I said, well, should we get together? You want to have dinner? You want to, lunch tomorrow? What do you want to do? Hey, you spent 4 hours with me. What should be going on? Hey, babe, what do you say? No, I just really enjoyed talking to you. It was a pleasure to talk to you. And that was it. She had no interest in going out with me. She had no interest in anything I had to say. She was just killing 4 hours. Rather than being a flight attendant, she was being somebody to talk to, I guess. I don't know what that sort of scam was. What do you suppose that scam was? My number is 800-848-9222. Love to talk about airplane stories. Totally enjoy airport stories, because you see, one of the things I've noticed is that the furthest distance between any 2 points is anywhere at O'Hare Airport. I'm Walter M. Sterling for TJ McCormack, and this is Another Side of Midnight on the Red Apple Audio Network.
It's Another Side of Midnight. This is the Worldwide News Network.
Extra. A group of couples in New York married for more than 50 years celebrating by taking their vows again and then giving advice to couples who are just starting out.
It's just that you understand each other and you love each other so much that you're willing to forgive and you're willing to work it out.
Well, it's two secrets. One, we're still best friends. B, he learned how to say yes there and no there.
For the Worldwide News Network, I'm Noam Laden.
The Tunnel to Towers Foundation honors the courage and sacrifice of America's heroes. Heroes like United States Army Lieutenant Colonel Christy Rabitz. Christy served our country with unwavering dedication for 20 years as a combat nurse. After a 6-year battle with service-related cancer, Christy's life was tragically cut short. She leaves behind her husband, Stephen, and their 2 children, Jack and Stella. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the Rabitz family's home. Help more families like Christy's. Donate $11 a month and amplify your impact by donating your car or land. Go to T2T.org.
It's Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormick.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios,
here's TJ McCormack.
Walter M. Sterling for TJ McCormack. Another Side of Midnight on the Red Apple Audio Network. I was sharing my deep thoughts about airports and flying, and there are aspects to it that nobody admits to, but I admit to, and my friend Lee Harris admitted to. The best thing for me is to be alone on an airplane. I love being alone on an airplane, and people say, well, you know, I love to travel. And when they say they love to travel, you and I imagine Paris, Rome, the beaches, Bora Bora, but no one ever says the real truth is, you know what? I really just like being alone on an airplane. Danny in Yonkers, welcome to Another Side of Midnight. Hi, Danny. Welcome to the Giant Radio Show. Can you handle it? Can you handle this radio show?
I can pump out 50,000 powerful watts. Listen, you were dressed good on that plane, right? And the stewardess saw you, or flight attendant, depending on what century, and she thought you were the owner of the Portland Trailblazers, and she wanted to talk to you. She didn't care about anybody else, you know, damn anybody's breakfast, and she wanted to chat with you because she probably had a thing for Billy Walton. Now you're sitting there, and the way your voice, you have the $1 million voice. Let's face it,
$1 million voice. Go ahead.
Yes,
go ahead, Danny. Go ahead.
And she finds you attractive, but she thinks you owns the Trailblazers, but she realizes that you're a jerk off, and then she doesn't want to talk to you anymore after the fight. And she wants to meet Billy Walton. You know?
I understand, Danny, and I thank you for the call. Sort of, almost 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Max in Manhattan, welcome to Another Side of Midnight.
Thank you very much. Normally, I'm ready to talk about politics or UFOs, but I'm going to say that you've proved yourself to be quite the raconteur here.
Raconteur.
And a very good phraser of the English language, so I give you that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more, Max? You're in Manhattan. It's a rainy, crappy night. The wind was it was horrible. You know, we're expecting a big storm. And you elected this mayor. You personally elected this mayor. No snow will be cleared up ever.
You're having me feel very guilty here because I did not vote for him, but you're convincing me that I did. So I'm beginning to feel a little guilty.
Do you know why I convinced you? It's because I am a raconteur. Thank you for your call, Max. Thank you very much for listening to Another Side of Midnight on the Red Apple Audio Network. Good evening. You and I are talking about the joys of flying and the fact that people don't tell the truth about why they want to travel. Oh, I love to travel. And you're thinking they want to go to a fancy pool or Florida for the weather. I suspect there are more than a few of us, people like me, a thought leader. That's what they call me, a thought leader. More than a few people who are thought leaders who really the deal is I like to be alone on an airplane, right? I like to be alone on an airplane. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. What is that, Rich? Hey, Rich in Jersey, welcome to Another Side of Midnight. Hi.
Hey, how you doing, Walter? Good show. I'm going to change the subject to automobiles for a minute, okay?
Yes.
Sometimes I feel like Larry David. I want to walk around my day. I gave up gambling and buying the Post for Lent, but I walk into a store and guess what I do? I buy a lottery ticket and I buy the Post. Meanwhile, I want to get a slice of pizza a couple doors down. A big red car pulls up. He gets out of the car. I hear this big whoop. I go, what? I go, what are you doing? He goes, nothing. I go, thanks for letting me know you locked your car. You scared the hell out of me.
Yeah.
So I go into the pizzeria. The guy goes, it wasn't me. It was the car. I said, I don't care what it was. You're disturbing the peace. I ought to get a cop over here. I feel like Larry David every time I go out. What's going on with that? Sometimes I'm 10 feet away from a car that just parked. A driver gets out. He's 10 feet. I walk by the car and hear the big loud horn noise. I said, what's going on here? You startled me. Why was that ever invented?
Are you talking about when people push the button on their key to lock the car and it makes the beep? Is that
so loud?
Yes.
I couldn't believe it. I go, what are you doing?
Yeah, but
you
Rich,
startled me.
That's
they don't
bad.
care.
Rich, that's bad. There's no way to disconnect it. There's no way not to let it beep. That's a big problem. I agree with you. But you know what I think is more disturbing than the horn, Rich, is when I'm on a highway and it's night and coming at me are those LED lights that are 10 times brighter than the incandescent bulbs used to be. They are so bright and so blinding. That to me is a real safety issue. Rich, thank you very much for your call. I appreciate it. 800-848-9222. Sherry knows how to get an upgrade on an airplane. Sherry, you're the most valuable caller tonight. Hi.
Hi. Well, I worked for an airline all my life. That flight attendant, she's not going to risk her job. She was deadheading or trying to get to her original base. Otherwise, she'd be up.
You think that's what it was? She looked like she was working that flight, but maybe you're right. Yeah. Maybe she was deadheading. It never occurred to me. I just thought I was so special.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You're supposed to kind of, you're supposed to kind of act like you belong on the flight or whatever. She shouldn't have been sitting down, really, but that's the only reason she would, because the captains wouldn't allow that, and it's Delta was a good airline, so I know.
All right. Well, you've ruined my fantasy life, Sherry. I think that was unnecessary, don't you? I don't.
Well, she could have picked somebody else to sit next to.
That's true. I suppose that's true.
She picked you.
No, she picked me because I had an empty seat next to me. Sherry, you're the best. You're great. You have a great voice. You're a great caller. Do you have any other information? You worked at an airline. What do we need to know about working at an airline?
Well, I left being a doctor to do it. So I was in college, and I was pre-med in college, doing well, and I started the job as a joke, and turned out I fell in love with it. So I stayed with it all my life.
And you didn't become a doctor?
No.
That's fine. You decided to do something that you loved, and that's terrific. And I thank you for the call, Sherry.
I never regretted it.
No, of course not. And you got to fly for free, and so did your husband. So it worked out fine. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. I had the privilege today of speaking at a conference for college radio majors. These were kids who run their college radio stations. They come to this conference once a year. It's managed, promoted by Talkers Magazine, by Michael Harrison. But what was great about it is I got to share something that I think is important about radio and important about you're just getting out of college. You're looking at your path, what it is you want to do. And this is what I said to them. I said, decide where you want to work. Decide where you want to work and what company you want to work at. Do not send out 50 resumes. decide this is where I want to work. This is what I want to do. Focus, 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 and send it out. And in that process, you will help decide what it is you love, what it is you want to do that you will love. And so many people, they go out to get a job. They just, they need a job. And sometimes that's true, but very often if you're single and you're just getting out of school, you don't really need a job. There may be mom or dad or a friend or a cheap roommate, another way to support yourself for a couple months till you get the job that you want. Too many people, they get a job and then they get stuck. Or they get a job, they move to the job, they don't really like the place, they don't really want to live there, but they're stuck. Don't get stuck. We have one shot, right? We have one life. And decide where you want to live, where you're going to enjoy the day when you're not at work. Decide the industry that you're in. And then in each industry, there's one location, one business that's considered the best at it, one of the best at it. Target for that. I've seen too many of my friends say, well, I don't really like the job, but it's a job. And I'm like, why would you do that? Life is way too short. That is my deep and sage advice. What I say to my kids when they're talking about how do I do a good job, how am I successful? I have hired and managed hundreds of people in all sorts of big and small jobs, from startups to the most established companies in the world. And you would be shocked at what a manager or a boss values most. It is not original ideas. It's not being clever. It's not writing something spectacular. It is not commandeering the meeting. It is something much simpler. It is. Yes, I disappeared for a moment. It was a UFO thing. It's simple. Show up. You would be shocked at how many people get jobs and don't show up or come in when they feel like it. Well, that's not what I'm getting paid for. I am paid to come in on time and do the job the best I can. What did I just say? I showed up. Does any manager expect it to be perfect? No. Does any manager expect you to always nail it, have great ideas, do better than your peers? No, they just really need you to show up. And the other thing I say to my daughters is, after you show up and you've worked hard and you've done your day, before you go home, say to your manager, is there anything else you need me to do today? I'm going to go home. You do that, and again, you're gold, because they know you can be depended upon. Well, that's really simple. That doesn't say. It is really simple. That's all you got to do. You got to show up, do your best. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, because this is really important, and I've waited till 4:35 to talk about this. A couple of years ago, a very spooky thing happened. At most homes in America, the electromechanical electric meter and water meter was replaced with a digital water meter and a digital electric meter. Very quietly, no, you didn't ask for a new water meter. I didn't ask for a new water meter. I was very happy with that water meter. But all across the country, in every community, new water meters were installed. Why is that? Why was that? Why did we all get new water meters that we didn't ask for, didn't have to pay for, but there they were, and they are digital, and they can listen to you? What? Yes, those new water meters can determine what is going on in your house. They collect information, and based on the volume of usage, they can tell if you're home, how long you're home, or, and this is where it gets exciting, if more people are home than usual. More people are home than usual. They can't hear, it doesn't have a microphone, but instead it collects the data about how much water is being used to the point where it really does know if you're home. And it knows if you are home versus not you. If somebody is tapping your water, if somebody's stealing water from you, it knows that too. Even more frightening, there are devices that listen to us, and they listen to us all the time. But it's not the ones that you and I expect. It's that big screen TV. That big screen TV not only can hear us, many of them can see us. Let's just think about that for a while. The big screen TVs. This leads to conspiracy theories. Here's the thing about conspiracy theories. Most conspiracy theories are products of our mind. Well, why do our minds come up with conspiracy theories? Well, it's because we are the smartest creatures on earth. Do you think humpback whales come up with conspiracy theories? No. Do you think squirrels have conspiracy theories? No. Why is that? Because they're very busy trying to get food. All day long, a whale eats krill. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It has no time for conspiracy theories. Squirrels, they're trying to remember where the nuts were left from last year. They have no time for conspiracy theories. That's what's unique about it. That's what's unique about us. Our brains have psychological dissonance. When something doesn't settle, when something doesn't make 100% sense, we need to fill the void. That's who we are. We need to fill up this void. And what do? We make stuff up. We make crap up. We come up with conspiracy theories. All conspiracy theories seem to be very elaborate, unprovable, filled with radio facts. And then, when actual facts are presented, the JFK assassination, the Robert Kennedy assassination, the UFOs, when facts are actually presented about things over which we have enormous conspiracy theories, it seems really boring. Nothing can match our imaginations in terms of what's been going on here. Big issue, a big event, but we don't have all the facts on the World Trade Center. A couple miles away, there was a jet engine that should have come out of one of those airplanes, but oh my God, the jet engine doesn't match. It was planted there, and on and on and on. Well, why? Why does that happen? It's because we didn't get all the facts, and we had to make stuff up to complete the picture. And our imaginations are far greater, far bigger, far more dangerous than any facts. But then when the facts are revealed, here's what actually happened. Here are the facts. We barely pay attention because it doesn't come close to how extraordinary our imaginations are. Conspiracy theories. Tartania. Walter M. Sterling, Another Side of Midday for TJ McCormack. Thank you so much for listening to this giant radio show on the Red Apple Audio Network.
It's Another Side of Midnight. This is the Worldwide News Network Extra.
Getting through security is even easier for some passengers at Miami International Airport because the airport now has TSA PreCheck touchless ID.
Welcome to Miami. Bienvenido a Miami.
We'll know based off of our system that you're flying that day, and based off of your passport picture and the picture that we take of you, it verifies who you are.
That's Dan Velez with the Transportation Security Administration. He says passengers who input their passport numbers and other information when they book their flights don't even have to take out their licenses or boarding passes.
Anytime you book a flight, you will have TSA PreCheck touchless ID added to your boarding pass. If you have TSA touchless, depending on the line, you're going to be through in probably under a minute.
I'm James Flippin, and this is the Worldwide News Network.
It's Another Side of Midnight.
Political humorist TJ McCormack.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios,
here's TJ McCormack.
Dingus is facing 2 counts of voyeurism after he was allegedly caught on camera sniffing a teen girl's underwear. I went to Butler and spoke with the chief of police, Eric Winbickler, who wouldn't say much.
It's basically that the village council is aware of the incident and the charges, and they're going to be discussing it here, undetermined date, but sooner than later.
He referred me to the Richland County Sheriff's Office.
We'll be more than happy to give you all the information that we have for the public records request, but at this point, we think the report speaks for itself.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll be glad to receive that. The report states that the victim placed a hidden camera in her bedroom after suspecting Dingus had been in there before when she wasn't home. She said video showed that he picked up 2 pairs of her underwear and smelled them for several seconds. Dingus was in court this morning. He was released on the 10th.
Mayor Dingus, an Ohio mayor, was arrested and wound up in court for sniffing a girl's underwear, which brings me to one of my favorite subjects, the Midwest. The Midwest. If you're in New York City, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and you're walking along the street with a kid, and the kid trips, 3 or 4 people are going to run up to that kid and help the kid get up and make sure you're okay, because that's what people do. Unless they're in the Midwest. And what happens in the Midwest is something very different. You could walk down that street, nobody else around, somebody coming towards you, kid trips, falls over. The person coming toward you in the Midwest does what? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. There is no more population. There is no population that is less involved in their community than the good neighborly people. I'll give you an example. You ready? My in-laws live in Shaker Heights, Ohio, and there were terrible ice and snowstorms this week, just terrible, to the point where so much ice formed on their roof that it fell down, knocked out the roof over their front door, and took down all of their front gutters, all of them on each floor, completely knocked them out, right? This made a horrendous noise, just terrifying noise. Now, my in-laws have lived in that house since 1965. They are known to their neighbors. They are known on the street. And I said, well, when this terrible noise happened, did your neighbors run over to see if you were okay? Did your neighbors come over and make sure you were all right? No. Nobody checked on them. They're in their 80s. Nobody checked on them. That is the friendliness and warmth of the Midwest. Now, I want to give you an update on our weather because we're looking at a massive storm, just a massive storm east of the Mississippi. You ready? Blizzard warning in New York, blizzard warning. These conditions are expected right through 6 o'clock tomorrow. Clear conditions expected around 8 a.m. However, today it's going to be 34, cloudy, high of 46. But on Sunday, expect snow, high of 37. Monday, more snow. So it's going to snow continuously for Sunday and Monday in the great Northeast. And if more happens, I'll let you know. But there was a horrendous 30-car backup on I-80 in Iowa. This was one of the worst accidents I have ever seen. I've never seen anything. For as far as my eye could see, there were cars piled up on each other, trucks on each other. Did you see this? Did you see these? What is the condition like where you are? 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. What are the roads like where you are? But in looking at the weather maps, right now it is 50 in Philadelphia, 55 in Washington, 60 in Richmond. It is comfortable right now, but it's going to go down. Low temperatures are going to be 32 in Parkersburg, 27 in Cincinnati, 24 in Indianapolis. It's going to be a cold, nasty weekend. But the big thing is the winds. These winds are going to shut out and shut down our airports. There's going to be massive flight delays, all of the good things. Now, there's a technical term for what is happening at this time. There's a technical term. My people call it weather. and winter. This is known as winter. It's a technical term. This is winter. But there's no such thing as global warming. Don't even begin. And here's your proof. Here's all you need to know. If you can remember back. You ready? When you were in elementary school, you got your weekly reader. Do you remember your weekly reader? This was a magazine that your teacher proudly handed out on Tuesdays, and it had all of the news that every third grader needed to know. One of the articles that I read when I was in third grade and have never forgotten is that you and I are living at the end of an ice age. We are living at the end of an ice age. Well, that means it's going to get warmer every year no matter what we do. That's right. It is arrogance to think that your Chevy Cruze is causing global warming. It's just not. We are not causing global warming. It is warming and has been warming for the last million years because we're at the end of an ice age. It's a lot of nonsense. And one of the jokes is all of the people who are saying that there is global warming and that we're not taking care of the environment. Why are all of those people buying beach houses? Those are the ones who are getting houses in Malibu and in Miami. Maybe they're saying all that to get the value of potential homes that they want lowered. It's possible. But if they meant it, they would not live anywhere near the oceans. And I can't believe this used to bother me because I knew what the trick was. I can't believe that. Remember, Al Gore used to go around with a slideshow to prove that there was global warming. And one of his proofs was he showed Mount Everest. And he showed Mount Everest with about 80% less snow than the last photo you saw of Mount Everest. And he said, this is what's going to happen he said, this is what's happened over the last 10 years. On Mount Everest, 10 years ago, it was covered with snow, and now it's mostly brown and has a little snow over here. This is Al Gore going around the country telling this. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, I can't believe he's pulling this scam because it was not a 10-year getting rid of the snow on Mount Everest. No, what it was he was showing pictures of Mount Everest in the summer. So in the summer, there's no snow on Mount Everest, almost none. In the winter, there's snow on Mount Everest. That's what he was doing. These were the biggest bunch of scammers. Then when you find out how they raised money and how they kept money, all of these people, it was just crooked, as crooked as could be. I want to talk to you about my Samantha. I have a daughter who is 14, and she has apraxia and autism. And it's a really interesting thing, the apraxia and autism. Apraxia is severe speech delay. So it was until third grade that she could talk. And then she never shut up. She talks. And the autism affects her academically, not socially. She doesn't have any social issues as a autistic. She's outgoing. She's extroverted. You will be her friend. But she's 14 and academically she's in third grade. You and I, you have an autistic kid, you have a challenged kid. There's another level of hell that goes with this, not just in the relationship with the child or what you want to do for your kid. There's another level, and the other level is this. The other level is getting the support that you need from schools, And what has to happen is schools by law have to teach your kid. By law, they have to teach your kid. And they may not want to spend the money because it's expensive. And what they did for my kid was this. Last year, they put my kid in a private school. They paid for the private school for my kid. This year, they said, we're not going to do it. They said, we're just not going to do it. We're not going to do anything for the kid. We're not going to spend one penny for the kid. Yet nothing changed. The kid's needs were the same. For the past 7 months, my wife and I have had to spend most of our time working with the people who hand out forms to get the education that child deserves. That's insane. When I started to raise this back in July, when I started to raise it back in July, you know what? The first thing the special ed teacher said to me, is, do you have a lawyer? And I'm like, why do I need a lawyer? Why do I need a lawyer? We've been in the school system since the 1960s. Why do we need a lawyer? I thought we were like on the same page. We had the same goal. What are we going to do that's best for Samantha? The challenge with public school systems is that they have no superstructure. They have no ability to deal really on a continuous, ongoing basis with special needs children. And parents have few places to go except to where expensive lawyers. I got a phone number. It's 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. 2 years ago, when my kid was in the middle school, my child was physically and emotionally assaulted in that middle school because she hears differently. Loud noises hurt her. It's a physical assault. Loud noises hurt her. And I said, let's get her out of this one place. You won't believe this. I said, let's get her out of this one class, which is the toughest class for her to be in, which is music. Music was coming into her ears much louder than it comes into yours and mine. Much louder, much faster, much harder. It hurt. And I said, why? But she can't read. She's in seventh grade, but she can't read. What if we took her out of music and had her do more reading? Could we do that? Could we have her learn more reading? Oh, no, we don't have any more slots for extra reading. We don't have any more slots for one-on-one reading. We can't do that. And then one of these idiots said, but not one individual can decide to take her out of music. It has to be a team decision. I said, what do you mean it has to be a team decision? Music is optional. You don't have to offer music. It's strictly an option. It's an elective. What are you talking about? She doesn't have to be in music. Well, one person can't decide this. Everybody has to. It has to be. She wanted to gather a room full of 7 teacher administrators to decide whether or not my kid had to be in music. And as a result, get this. This is how serious it was. My daughter, because music hurt her, every day, twice a week, when she had music class, I'd go to the school, I'd pick her up, and I'd take her to a diner for an hour, and then take her back to school to get her out of music class so that she would not suffer. Why did I have to do that? Why would any parent have to do that to protect their child in school? As a result, she didn't want to go to school. She wanted to avoid school at all costs, which is not truancy. Attention parents, there's a difference between truancy and avoidance. Boy, have I learned that lesson. Now, since July, I have my side hustle. My side hustle has been to find the funds within that school system to keep her in her special ed school. Isn't that crazy? That's crazy. Nobody should have to do that. I have an email. It's waltermsterling@gmail.com. waltermsterling@gmail.com. And they have threatened me to be here again tomorrow night. And tomorrow, what you and I are going to talk about is Tartaria. Tartaria. Tartaria is a country that actually did exist that has been erased from history. Now, why has it been erased from history? Because it goes against the interests of oil, electricity, paid for electricity, oil, gas, things that today are very expensive, that in Tartaria were free. They worked out the free energy problems. They worked out the no need for oil problems. All of these things were solved in Tartaria. And they built these magnificent buildings, some of which you can still see, the old courthouses, old churches, old train stations that are incredible, but they're 110 years old. How did they build those when everybody in that town was using horses, buggies, and unpaved roads? How did they build those? Well, they didn't. Tartarians built it many, many years earlier. And when they decided that this was not convenient to have free energy, not convenient to have dirigibles that could fly with electricity in the 1870s. When this wasn't convenient, this had to be erased. And how this was erased and when it was erased is an absolutely fascinating story. And you and I will talk about that tomorrow night. My name is Walter M. Sterling for TJ McCormack. And what a great time it's been. You and I get to spend time together. What have we learned tonight? What have we learned tonight? We've learned how to get an upgrade to first class just by dressing nicely. We learn, cigars and yogurt help. We have learned that I believe the UFO files that are going to be turned over by Donald Trump have nothing in them, that it is a joke among the presidents. The presidents have gotten together, they smile, they laugh, they think this is pretty funny. There's nothing in those files. But as long as they don't reveal that, the power stays with them. We imagine there's stuff in that files that are much more elaborate and inconvenient than anything that is going to be revealed. But what does it do? It gives the presidents tremendous power because we think they know what the UFOs are. But they don't know. There's nothing in the files. But they know that if they reveal the files, their power is dissipated. If they don't reveal the files, then people think they're very powerful and nobody can know except the President of the United States. It's a hell of a joke, and that's what it is. The greatest gift that you and I can receive is a request for help. This is the Red Apple Audio Network.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best our nation has to offer, especially when it comes to health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families' health. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.